$3,875 from fund balance reserved for bond premiums and $33,526,478 to be raised by taxation, each item marked with an asterisk. Being considered a separate appropriation. B, to fix the salaries, compensation of all elected officials of the town set forth in the budget voted under this article or as separately voted by the town under other articles of the warrant for this meeting, and to fund any settlement union contracts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. What is the recommendation of the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee supports this motion.
And is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen support this motion.
Is there any discussion on Article 6?
Stephen Sage. I'm very concerned about the issues that takes place with the school budget. I know the town of Charlton has met its obligation to the fullest based on what the school committee requested for our appropriation. But I know the town of Dudley has budgeted far less than what was requested and eventually negotiated to a lower percentage, which means there'll be leftover money in the town budget to be transferred to either free cash or the other one, stabilization. My concern is the Dudley has in their budget far less. They have a supplemental Article number 10, which will add $280,000 to their budgeted amount, but that has to be voted positively by the citizens of Dudley. If they do not pass that supplemental amount of $280,000, the Charlton budget gets reduced even more, which means something has to be cut. And currently, there are already a number of cuts that are in the school committee budget that I feel are unfortunate and that will lead to a less than adequate education to the citizens or the children of Charlton. If the budget does not get, the supplemental budget does not get passed, I'd like to know what the school committee's plans are for addressing the situation.
I think that would actually be an appropriate question to ask the school committee at the school committee's meeting.
I think it's an appropriate question to ask here because I think the citizens need to know what's going to happen to our budget and our education of the children.
So, unfortunately, they don't have a quorum this evening, so I'm informed I don't think they can speak, nor is the superintendent able to attend tonight because he has COVID.
Is the budget financial person able to speak as far as the financial situation? That's Richard Mathau.
So I'm told that person does not live in town. If they are here, someone would have to nominate them second and vote to allow them to speak to that.
So moved.
Second.
So we need. So Richard Matthew?
Yeah, I think we have to take a vote. Want to take a vote, so we can just do a voice vote.
So if you would say it and nominating Richard Matthew to speak on their behalf, and then we'll just do a simple voice vote.
Motion to allow Mr. Matthew, who's the finance director of DCRSD, to speak this evening.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? So hearing none, we'll do a simple voice vote. All those.
By statute, the superintendent of the schools has the right to speak at the town meeting. That once became an issue, and at the time Superintendent Canavan got it corrected by the legislature, so Mr. Matthew was here in his place, so I believe he has the statutory right to speak anyway. But if you want to take a motion, we'll see how it goes.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Matthew, if you would please help us answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If the budget does not get approved at the Dudley Town meeting, school committee would have two options in front of them. One would be to call a super town meeting. I believe that's happened once in the region's history. Or it could vote to reduce its budget to match the.
I'm sorry, but can everyone hear him clearly?
No.
Can you speak into the microphone,
Can you
please?
face-
Sorry.
Yeah, you have to get right up to it.
Is that a little better? All right, sorry about that. So the school committee would have two options. One would be to vote to hold a super town meeting, which would be a combination of the voters of Dudley and Charlton. I believe that's happened once in the history of the district. The second option before school committee, if that were to happen in Dudley, would be to vote to reduce its budget. I certainly can't speak for the elected members of school committee, but given the circumstances, given all of the time that I've spent with them discussing budget this season, it certainly seems like the option would be to go ahead and have the super town meeting.
So please, anybody in here, if you know anybody in Dudley, please have them attend the meeting.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on Article 6? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. If you get your clickers ready. Voting is now open. Please click 1 for yes and 2 for no.
Yeah, it's the motion. Yeah, it's the motion.
So what's on the screen is to see if the town will vote to raise, borrow, or transfer and appropriate such sums of money as may be necessary to defray the expenses of the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022, and is provided by General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108, to fix the salaries and compensation of all elected officers of the town as set forth in the budget voted under this article, or as separately voted by the town under other articles of the warrant for this meeting, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. The article needed the majority vote to pass, and it passed by 137 yeses to 42 noes. Article 7, Water Department Budget Enterprise Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise by taxation, borrow, or transfer from available funds and appropriate to the Water Enterprise Fund such sums of money as may be necessary, together with revenue from Water Department operations, to defray the expenses of the Water Department for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022, or take any action relative thereto or thereon.
I move that $94,500 be appropriated for the Water Enterprise Fund, of which $3,800 is for personal services and $90,700 is for expenses. That $4,418 be included in appropriation from the general fund for indirect costs and be allocated to the Water Enterprise Fund, and that $11,200 be raised from Water Enterprise fees, $33,300 be raised from Water Enterprise retained earnings, and $50,000 be transferred from the Water Stabilization Fund to the FY 2023 Water Department Enterprise Fund account, to be expended under the direction of the Water and Sewer Commissioners for the respective expense purposes set forth in the last column below under the heading Water Enterprise Expenses, each item being marked with an asterisk, being considered a separate appropriation, as presented in the packet.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee supports this motion.
Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen support this motion.
Is there any discussion on Article 7? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Voting is now open. This requires a 2/3 vote to successfully pass. Voting has closed.
161, yes.
Article 7 passes by 161 yeses to 25 noes. Article 8, Sewer Department Budget Enterprise Fund. To see if the town will vote to raise by taxation, borrow, or transfer from available funds and appropriate to the Sewer Enterprise Fund such sums of money as may be necessary, together with revenue from Sewer Department operations, to defray the expenses of the Sewer Department for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, or take any action relative thereto or thereon.
I move that $1,468,600 be appropriated for the Sewer Enterprise Fund, of which $142,600 is for personal services and $1,326,000 is for expenses. That $52,764 be included in appropriations from the general fund for indirect costs and be allocated to the Sewer Enterprise Fund, and that $1,020,200 be raised from the Sewer Enterprise fees, $140,000 be raised from Sewer Enterprise privileges fees, and $308,400 be raised from Sewer Enterprise betterment fees to the fiscal year 2022 Sewer Department Enterprise Fund account, to be expended under the direction of the Water and Sewer Commissioners for the respective expenses purposes set forth in the last column below under the headings Sewer Enterprise expenses, each item being marked with an asterisk, each being considered a separate appropriation, as printed on next page.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee supports this motion.
Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen support this motion.
Is there any discussion on Article 8?
I think there was a typo error in the motion that talks about the $142,600 is for personal services. I think that's meant to say personnel services.
Noted.
Motion to change.
Second line. Second line.
So we'll take that as a motion to amend the typographical error. Is there a second?
Second.
Majority vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to amend passes. Thank you, Mr. Sage. Now we'll get back to some more personal issues. A majority vote is needed to pass Article 8. Voting is now open. Please click 1 for yes and 2 for no. See, we're doing good. I haven't gotten hit by a tomato yet.
It's early.
It's early. Ten seconds remaining. Voting is closed.
160 yes, 25 no.
Motion passes by 161 yeses to 25 noes. Article 9, capital items and related contracts. To see if the town will vote to raise by taxation, borrow, or transfer from available funds, including so-called free cash, and funds previously appropriated to other uses, and appropriate a sum or sums to purchase capital items and for service repair, improvement, architectural, construction, renovation, improvement, and/or other contracts relating to town buildings, facilities, and other property, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen, Chief Procurement Officer, or other appropriate town official, board, commission, or committee to enter into such contracts or leases, and to take other such action as may be necessary to effectuate the purposes of such votes, or take any action relative thereto or thereon.
Mr. Moderator, I move the consideration of the article be postponed indefinitely.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to postpone indefinitely. Any discussion on that or questions? Hearing none, we'll just go to a majority vote needed to vote. Hang on. Polls are open. Click 1 for yes and 2 for no to postpone indefinitely. Motion to postpone indefinitely passes by 167 yes to 19 noes. Article 10, transfer of funds to and from stabilization fund account. To see if the town will vote to add funds to and/or transfer and appropriate sums from the stabilization fund account to an account or accounts to be determined at the town meeting, including but not limited to, for purposes of acquiring land in the town or take any action relative thereto or thereon.
I move the consideration of this article be postponed indefinitely.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, again, to postpone indefinitely. Any discussion or questions on that? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. Majority vote is needed. Voting is now open. Please click 1 for yes and 2 for no to again postpone indefinitely. Voting is closed.
169 yes, 18 yes.
Motion to postpone indefinitely passes by 169 yeses to 18 noes. Article 11, Cemetery Perpetual Care. To see if the town will vote to accept the sum of $16,600 as trust funds from individual persons, the income from each sum to be used for the perpetual care of the Charlton cemeteries, or take any action relative thereto or thereon.
I move that Article 11 be accepted as printed.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee supports the motion.
Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen support this motion.
And is there any discussion or any questions on Article 11? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. A majority vote is needed.
Open.
Voting is now open. Again, please click 1 for yes, 2 for no. And I'm going to stop saying that. Article 11 passes by 185 yeses to 4 noes. Article 12, revolving funds. To see if the town, upon recommendation of the Board of Selectmen, will vote, as authorized by Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to reestablish and/or establish the following revolving funds, and to authorize the official commission, board, or committee specified in the first column below to expend funds from the specified account without further appropriation, provided that the amount to be expended from such account in the fiscal year commencing this coming July 1 shall not exceed the amount set forth in the fourth column unless additional amount or amounts are recommended by both the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee as described on the next, I think, 2 pages worth of space in your handouts.
I move that Article 12 be accepted as printed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee supports this motion.
Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen support this motion.
Are there any questions or comments on Article 12? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. This requires a majority vote to pass. Voting is now open. Article 12 passes with 171 yeses to 14 noes. Article 13, to adopt Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, parentheses 54, establish $1,000 as the minimum value of personal property subject to taxation. To see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of Chapter 59, Section 54, 5, parentheses 54 of general laws, and establish $1,000 as the minimum value of personal property subject to taxation, or take any action relative thereto or thereon.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of Chapter 59, Section 554 of the general laws, and that in all other respects, Article 13 be accepted as printed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee supports this motion.
Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen support this motion.
Is there any discussion or any questions on Article 13?
So I do have a little problem with this one. So I'd like to first get the rationale and reasoning behind this motion.
Do you want me to? Basically, it's
I'm going to defer that question to the assessor. I think Kathy's here.
Thank you. So the assessor will answer the question for us.
Hi, Kathy Stanley. So we have a lot of personal property accounts in town. We're in a certification this year. It's very cumbersome when we have accounts that are valued where we only collect $5. The budget to accommodate sending out the tax bill and the personnel that it requires to try to collect them, what happens is they don't pay the bill, or by the time we actually get from the town clerk that a new business is opened, say it's a home business, they have like a desk and a chair, a filing cabinet, it's depreciated, it doesn't get valued at much, and it's cumbersome to track them down. By the time they get the bill, they're out of business and they stopped it, then they don't pay it, then it has to go through a process of actually abating it through the collector's office. It's a lot of money. This would be, for the coming fiscal year, about 36 accounts. That would total about $196 in revenue. But the costs that it costs to mail out the bills a couple times a year, mail out the late notices, and then eventually making them uncollectible is higher than that. So it's actually it's more beneficial to the town.
So the taxes we pay on cars, that's not a personal property tax?
No, this would be for businesses. So this is business personal property tax. It's not motor vehicle excise. So this would be if you started a home-based business in your house and then you had a small amount of personal property, machinery, equipment, furniture, fixtures, and inventory, if you're not incorporated, is valued as personal property. And then if you're incorporated, machinery and equipment is valued as personal property.
Okay. Are automobiles, though, considered personal property?
They are considered personal property, but that falls under motor vehicle excise and does not follow under this article. That would
Okay, 'cause
not be included in this
I was
article.
visualizing the entire economic system
Yeah, no, that would not be a good idea.
falling apart as we try to sell our cars.
No, this would be specifically personal property.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Kathy.
Phil Donahue, 126 Osgood Road.
Can you-
Phil Donahue, 126 Osgood Road, Charlton, Mass. I make a motion to shelve this until it's clarified in language. The language is too vague.
So there was a motion, I believe he wanted to say to pass over indefinitely. If you want to make, well, hold on a second.
A motion to pass over indefinitely.
So we already have a motion and a second. You'd have to make a motion. You want to amend that motion to amend the motion.
I'd like to amend the motion, yes.
I would need you to put the motion in 2 copies, please. One has to go to the town clerk. You can hand one to me and one has to go to the town clerk. Oh, just 1 copy is fine, but we need your motion in writing, please.
Does it need a pen?
While we're waiting, can I make a quick comment? So, again, not speaking on behalf of the board, just for myself, just for clarification, just as a reminder on the language, and obviously we'll discuss the motion, we're actually voting to accept the provisions of a documented Mass General law. So when we think around language clarifications, there's really not much to clarify respectively because this is codified in Mass General law. We're just accepting those provisions that are already written, but through the moderator, I defer to the assessor to correct me if I am in error.
No, motor vehicle is completely separate. Motor vehicle shows up on page 3 of the tax rate recap, where personal property taxes shows up on page 1. So personal property valuation on last year's tax rate recap, which I do have, was 107 million. Motor vehicle excise is on page 3 and is completely separate. That's actually billed from the Registry of Motor Vehicles and printed. They're entirely 2 different things, but yes, you can consider a car as personal property. It is taxed entirely as a separate thing. So yes, you're right, the Mass General law is for personal property.
Thank you. So at the moment, we have a motion to amend this article by passing over indefinitely. Is there a second? Second. There is a second. Any discussion on the amendment to the motion? Hearing none, we will attempt this by a voice vote. Majority needed to pass. Those in favor of amending the motion to pass over indefinitely, please say aye. Opposed to passing over indefinitely, please say no. No. The motion to amend fails. We will now move on to the main motion. Is there any further discussion of Article 13?
Frank Lombardi, 20 Prindle Hill Road. My question is,
Can you please just make sure you're...
as the assessor might not be able to answer this, are we voting to say that anything that has a value less than $1,000 will be taxed as not be taxed, and anything that they assess at over 1,000 will be taxed, or is it anything that has a value under 1,000 or now has a value of 1,000 and taxed at that rate?
Thank you.
I think I understood the question. You just want to know. So it's not that the first 1,000 is exempt. It's just that it's for small home businesses. If they're valued at under 1,000, they would be completely exempt. You can actually go in Mass General law up to $10,000. There's some communities that exempt any business personal property that's valued at $10,000 or less. So we're doing the minimum at 1,000 or less.
So anything that you value under $1,000 wouldn't be taxed?
1,000 or less would not be taxed. Under 1,000 would not be taxed. 1,000 and over would be taxed.
Okay.
So like I said, that would be about 36 accounts. So
Yep, thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Are there any further questions on Article 13? Okay, seeing none, we will move to vote. It needs a simple majority to pass. Voting is open. Voting is closed.
170 yes, 17 no.
Article 13 passes by 170 yeses to 17 noes. Article 14, an act authorizing raising the maximum retirement age of special police officers in the town of Charlton to 70 years old, To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to file with the General Court a petition for special legislation in the form set forth below, authorizing the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Charlton to raise the maximum retirement age of special police officers to 70 years old, provided, however, that the General Court shall be authorized to make clerical or editorial changes of form only to the bill, unless the Board of Selectmen approves amendments to the bill before enactment by the General Court, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to approve amendments which shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of this petition, as described in your handouts, beginning with chapter and ending with section 3, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. Is there a motion?
Yes. Yes is a motion. So moved.
There's a motion by Mr. Coronas. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen support this motion.
Is there any discussion or questions on Article 14?
Hello, Jim Nee, 34 Center Depot Road. Just a point of clarification, what is the current age of retirement for special police officers?
65 years old.
Thank you, Mr. Golis. Is there any other questions on Article 14? Hearing none, we'll move to vote. This needs a simple majority, and voting is now open. Voting is closed.
149 yes, 48 no.
Article 14 passes by 149 in favor to 48 opposed. Article 15, Animal Control Bylaw Amendment. To see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Charlton Bylaws, Chapter 110, Animal Control, Part 3, Section 110-10, Disposition of Unclaimed Dogs and Cats, by deleting, changing the final sentence thereof, presently reading, the adoption fee for all unclaimed dogs or cats, regardless of sex, breed, or age, shall be $20, and substituting, therefore, a sentence reading, the adoption fee for all unclaimed dogs or cats, regardless of sex, breed, or age, shall be established from time to time by the Charlton Animal Control Officer, subject to approval in each instance by the Board of Selectmen, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. Is there a motion?
I move that Article 15 be accepted as printed.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen support this motion.
Are there any questions or any discussion on Article 15? Seeing none, this needs a majority vote. And voting is now open.
Yes, 46 no.
Article passes by 151 yes to 46 noes. Article 16, Zoning Bylaw Amendment, amends Section 2 of the zoning bylaw. To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw, Section 2, definitions, 200-2.1, uses and structures, to insert the underlined language and delete the strike-through language as follows, or take any other action relative thereto or thereon. And this is covered in the following 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 9 pages. So while everyone's taking a quick look at all of that, the sponsor for this is the planning board. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 16 as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation of the planning board?
The planning board supports this motion.
Thank you. I'll give everyone another few seconds while you're looking through there. This does require a 2/3 vote in order to pass. Mr. Sage?
On yard sales on the last page. It's probably semantics a little bit, but it talks about somebody selling products on their property. But it says, all goods shall be limited to personal property used previously by the occupant of that property. If somebody has a 3-family yard sale and it's on my property and I have 2 other people next to me and they're bringing their stuff over to my property to sell, they are not the occupant of my property. So I'm concerned when multiple families have a sale, would not be considered a yard sale under this definition.
Thank you, Mr. Sage. Were there any other comments or is there any other discussion on 16? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. Again, this does require 2/3 to pass. Voting is now open. Voting has closed.
130, yes, 57 no.
Article 16 passes by the 2/3 majority needed, 130 yeses to 57 noes. Article 17, zoning bylaw amendment, amend section 3 of the zoning bylaw. To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw, section 3, use and intensity regulations, sections 200-3.1 zoning districts, to insert the underlined language and delete the strike-through language as follows, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. And you can see the underline and strike-throughs on the following. One, looks like about two pages worth of space. And while you're looking over that, this will require, again, a 2/3 vote to pass. While you're looking through this, I will accept a motion, if there is one.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 17 be accepted as printed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there, you might want to stand up. Is there a motion of the planning, I'm sorry, does the planning board support this motion?
The planning board supports this motion.
Thank you.
Don't go too far.
Okay, this does require a 2/3 vote. Has there any questions or comments from anyone regarding Article 17?
Hello, Jim Nee again, 34 Center Depot Road. I have a handful of questions about this motion. I will try to ask them as succinctly as possible, and I apologize, I'll happily repeat any of them if I say too many all at once. What benefit does the property owner gain by rezoning to rural residential from agricultural? Obviously, in the following article, we see some limitations that are put on rural residential as compared to the current zoning regulations. The 50,000 square foot horticultural, for example, is no longer an approved thing. It needs permission. Is there a way for both agricultural and rural residential to be available and for the residents to pick or to vote upon their parcels being one or the other? If not, why can't residents pick that or vote on that? And will this rezoning improve the position of the town in any pending litigation?
If you want to hang on 1 second, we might need you to repeat certain parts of the question. Do you want to try to answer those, please?
Hi, Jim, thanks for the questions. So it's not a rezoning there's no rezoning. It's just taking out the word agricultural, which is now, currently it's A60, which stands for 60,000 square foot minimum square footage, switching it to residential. Now, everyone needs to remember these zoning bylaws that we currently use, a lot of them are from 1987, when the town first had their first bylaws. So, and it was a primarily agricultural used town. So the primary, yes, it will still allow you to farm, do whatever you want. Mass general law, if you have 5 acres or more, you have the right to farm, do whatever you want. So since this has become more of a residential town, there's less working farms than there were back in 1987. So we're just trying to keep up with the times and change to keep up with stuff that's coming in that we see, stuff that the zoning enforcement officer sees that comes into his office. We're just trying to evolve and keep up with the times. That's pretty much the reason for that. And then when you get to a 50, what I stuck out was the 50,000 square foot horticulture building. That's a pretty good size building. I mean, how would you like it going next to you on Center Depot Road there? Would you like that right next to you? Or would you like to have some kind of oversight by the planning board over it?
I can think of the town I grew up in, Gardner, Mass. There's a place called Valley Florist, and they have a very large horticultural indoor facility there, specifically for growing flowers and whatnot. So it kind of depends on the use.
Gotcha. All right. I hope I got some of the points that you had. I know you had quite a few.
I guess the follow-up question I would have, kind of just to make sure, a clarifying question is, does the resident or the property owner, obviously there's a clarification and a modification for modernization, but does the property owner stand to gain anything or benefit in any way from this modification?
It's just a word. You change one word for the next. No. I mean, it doesn't take away and it doesn't enhance. So, and currently it won't affect any kind of resident, I mean, because you already have it before any kind of name change went in. So, I mean, it's just a name change. There's no real, nothing when we get to Article 18, you'll see there's some modifications made to the chart, but none of it really to that affects that 60,000 square foot minimum lot.
Can you please speak into the microphone?
Oh, I apologize.
Thank you. And my final closing question was, does this zoning change improve the town's standing in any pending litigation?
Well, it's just language. There's no zone change. It's just changing of language.
So would the answer then be no, there's no litigation involved with this?
Correct. That is correct.
Thank you.
All right.
Kevin Foley, 164 Burlingame Road. Will this eliminate the agricultural word? I have a problem with the fact that we're eliminating agricultural. I came here before in 1987, and I am agricultural, and I do farm, and I have a problem with the fact that I've been to a number of town meetings, and we all hear people talk about moving to Charlton for the benefits of living in a farm community, and I think it's disingenuous to get rid of the term agricultural for that. Not only that, it just takes away from a lot of things. I'm a Stockbridge graduate from UMass. I came here, like I said, before '87, and I'm not comfortable with losing the term agricultural in the town of Charlton.
Thank you.
Just because we're changing eliminating the word doesn't mean you can't do it.
Thank you.
Kathy Benjamin, 7 L. Turner Drive. The definition of agriculture does matter. When you eliminate an agricultural zone, farming becomes a non-conforming use. And over time, what happens is that the residential zoning ordinance
Can you please speak into the mic?
contemplates and gradual elimination of non-conforming uses, and so regulate their expansion that the non-conforming uses wither and die. Farms that become a non-conforming use under the zoning change and cannot expand its current operation or diversify its production can be challenged when seeking a building permit for a new farm structure, or worse, experience a disruption in production and not be allowed to resume operation. So it does matter.
Thank you.
Other issues involve changes in boards, for example, and how they interpret what's in their bylaws. Currently, I'm experiencing with the Board of Health an issue regarding an irrigation well. All I have asked the board is to allow my irrigation well to remain while I get my water from my personal home hooked up to town water. It's been months, and I have no answer. I find that ethics sometimes really withers on the vine in this community. Thank you.
Any further discussion on Article 17?
Yes, sir. Dan Proudy, Partridge Hill Road. I just want a clarification, and the print is a little light, on the residential uses, number 2. It says major residential development. I'm sure there's a definition in here, and I probably should look, but it says N and SP under BEP at the end. You know, there's a very limited amount of business enterprise park, whatever we're calling it these days, left. And I don't think it should be squandered for a major residential development. Even though it gives me more options, but anyway, I think I'd just like some clarification from the planner or the planning board, see if I'm interpreting this right.
Dan, you still on Article 17, or did you move to the chart on Article 18?
No, I'm sorry, Article 18.
All right, that's the next one
I
up.
got ahead of myself.
So
that's
we're
all
on
right.
Article 17.
Okay, do you want to, all right. Will we come back to then? Can you clarify?
Mr. Foley?
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Can I make a motion to amend Article 17 to remove striking agricultural? And then
Are
have
there
it
any other
include.
changes, or is that the only change to the?
Just for clarification, if people will turn to page 21 and you look at the use chart, number 1, agricultural, floricultural, and horticulture use, you look in the R60 zone, they are all Ys. Nothing has changed in the zoning chart is going to be proposed on Article 18. So just what Article 17 is looking to do is just change that agricultural name in the A60 to move it to rural residential R60, just for clarification.
Thank you. So, Mr. Foley, you can if you'd like. I would again need you to fill this out.
I would like to ask to amend that proposal.
Mr. Foley, I just need you to put your amendment on, your requested motion to amend on here, please. Please just write down what it is you're looking to amend it. You want to remove that strikeout. So we have a motion to amend, which would remove the strike-through of the word agricultural in Article 17. Is there a second on the motion to amend?
Second for discussion.
There is a second for discussion. So we will entertain questions and comments on the amendment to the article, removing the strike through the word agricultural? And you were at the microphone first.
So this needs to be about, specifically about.
Specifically,
the word-
just about the amendment.
I think I'll wait.
Okay.
Okay, Ross, I just have a question for you. Was this something that the
Ms.
board
Ridlack, just state your name and
I'm
address,
sorry,
please.
Patricia Ridlack, 58 Daniels Road. Was this something that was recommended by the consultant that came in to oversee the zoning bylaws for their recommendation?
Yes, just to let all the town voters know that we contracted with Central Mass Regional Planning, and he had recommended this change.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on the motion to amend?
Again, Kathy Benjamin, 7 L Turner Road. If it's true that it's just a word change, why does it matter? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments regarding or questions specifically about the amendment? Seeing none, we will attempt to do this by voice vote. Majority needs to pass by the amendment. Those in favor of the amendment to the motion, striking out, removing the strikeout of the word agricultural, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. We're going to use the clicker. This might take a second.
No, I know. Can you clarify the vote? Yeah, yeah.
Article 17. We need the.
So while she is setting up the slide for voting,
Clarification, is it just the first, strikeout? Or this strikeout?
so Mr. Foley, just for clarification, you want to strike out just the first word agricultural, or are you also looking to strike out the following sentence where there's an entire sentence that includes the word agricultural? I couldn't hear you. So he said he just wants to remove that first word, agriculture, the strikeout through that first word and leave it in.
David, I think you probably need to clarify what a yes and a no means in this case. I don't think people understand.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but if the amended motion, we vote and it passes, the remainder of the article as printed will be in effect. However, the word agricultural at the beginning that has been struck through will no longer be struck through and will remain.
Throughout the entire.
Correct.
That's right, amendment, remove the strike out of the word.
So then a ye-
So can we ask the planning board to please explain what will happen? Yes.
So again, to emphasize my point, I'm reading the article in the number 1, and it says it encourages preserving and enhancing views, protecting the historical rural agricultural environments, preserving the enhanced and visual landscapes. These are all the things I've heard people talk about, reasons why they've moved to Charlton in the first place for a number of years. And I think it's, again, I can't believe we're getting rid of the word agricultural in the town of Charlton.
All right, but for clarification, if this strike-through is removed, it eliminates the entire following strike-throughs, correct?
Correct. So, Mr. Moderator, if I can, just for a moment, and just so we all get on the same page. When I see agricultural currently, we're talking on page 19 of the booklet, at the very top, under title. So, agricultural will stay, rural residential will no longer be written. Same thing at top of page 20, under subsection 1. Currently, at the very top of the page, it says agricultural A. then that was initially proposed to be rural residential R60. What this would mean, at least for now, according to the motion, the way I understand it, is that agricultural A will remain. We will not call it rural residential R60. However, all the other crossouts, all the other underlines will remain. Just be aware, because specifically it says to provide for agricultural and lower density sites, which will still be crossed out under the existing motion as written. So again, all it's saying is that anything that did say, that was proposed for rural residential R60, that's gone. That will now remain as the word agricultural. At least that's my understanding, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, now, there's been a discussion in the back, so for clarification, the interpretation was that because only the strike-through is being removed in the amendment, that it would actually now say both agricultural, rural residential R60, and it would say it all together. But I agree with you, it could be interpreted that way as well. And I think that's where the confusion is existing.
So, Mr. Moderator,
Could it be
perhaps we
both?
just get a clarification from the petitioner on what he would like.
Mr. Foley, and if you would come to the mic so we can hear you.
Mr. Moderator, if you will. So, Mr. Foley, what we're basically trying to figure it out is, do you want it to read agricultural A to provide for, or do you want it to read agricultural A or rural residential R60 to provide for? So, do you want them both in there, or do you just want the word agricultural?
I think or is fine, because that allows both. Is that correct? I just don't want to lose I don't want to lose the agricultural status.
So,
If or is the proper way to phrase it, that's okay by
perhaps you can amend your written motion,
amend my amendment.
which I know sounds crazy, but technically speaking.
I'll do it because I really do want to.
Mr. Moderator, thank you for your
defend it
indulgence.
to be
Let me turn the dance back over to you. Works for me.
Okay, so we have a new motion to amend.
Oh, yeah, no, I get it. We're just trying to figure out the best language for it.
The new motion to amend is to remove the strike-through through the word agricultural and insert the word or after, so that it will now support or read both agricultural and or rural.
Is that good? You want to strike out the word agricultural and insert the word or? Okay.
All right, so we have a motion. We need a second for his amended motion, which makes it, again, removing the strike-through for agricultural and inserting the word or, so it will then support both agricultural and the rural. Any discussions on that motion to amend, the amendment?
Robert Hartwig, 2 Freeman Road. And I'm having trouble understanding how voting yes for the amendment is different from simply voting no on the original motion. So wouldn't it be simpler just to vote no on the original motion?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Borowski.
So you have to remember on this one, granted it's from the planning board. However, it's not just the name change from agricultural to residential 60. There are additional strike-throughs throughout, you'll see on page 20. So the motion on the floor, even as amended, is only talking about the term agricultural. So if the entire motion or if the entire article gets voted down, all the other changes will also get voted down. This is basically just trying to say, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Foley, but keep the term agricultural in the bylaw. That's really what this motion amended is about, in my not so humble opinion.
So I still need a second to the amendment to the amended motion.
Second for discussion.
Thank you. So right now, and we are still only working on the amendment, or the new amendment, the amendment to the amendment, which removes the strike-through through agricultural, but also inserts the word "or," so it will address both agricultural and rural. Any comments or discussions on that amendment?
Not Madam Moderator, but sir.
Never been called Madam Moderator before. So, please say your name and address into the
Karen
microphone.
Riopel, 128 Sunset Drive. Born and raised Charlton, so I can understand the want to keep our old family roots and everything else. I would suggest that we change the definition and not the actual, we changed the rural residential R60, but we changed the definition part to include the agricultural piece. And that way,
So if you want to make that as another amendment to the amendment, I need it in writing.
right.
I need the actual, if that's going to be a motion to amend again, I need that in writing.
Okay. So do I need to verbalize it and then put it in writing?
You would, or the planning board might want to consider making their own motion to come back to this, but it's entirely up to the planning board after working with residents. But if you want to make another amendment to the amendment, yes.
And just so everyone else knows, I'll be motioning to move this in about 2 seconds, just to throw that out there. Yeah.
Well, we're going to in a minute. So, so we're going to have to take a vote on the motion to amend, and if it fails, we'll have a new amendment to the motion. We'll try to do this by voice vote.
Well, she has
Because-
I have the other one. I have it on the screen.
Oh, she has it on the screen, okay.
This is the one to add, to amend, to strike through the agricultural and.
Correct, so we have to act on the first motion, which was seconded. It will pass or fail. If it fails, we'll have a new motion.
Okay, so remove the strike out of the word agriculture and insert the word or. So a vote yes would do this and a vote no would not. Okay, ready?
Okay, so voting is now open on the motion to amend. The motion to amend was to remove the strikeout of the word agricultural and insert the word "or" after it. Again, so that it would support both agricultural and rural, leaving the word agricultural in. This is a vote on the amendment to take this action on that article. Voting has closed. Voting is just closed on that amendment.
I can redo it.
She's going to redo it. So everyone, I'm going to ask you to please not scream. If you do, we will have people removed. Please be respectful. We are trying to work through this. We have multiple amendments. We have to act on the existing amendment before we can take the next amendment, which is being written. Right now, she's going to adjust the screen. So to clarify, again, his motion to amend, which was seconded, is to remove the strike-through of the word agricultural, leaving it in, but inserting the word "or" after it. All he seeks to do is not change the entire article, but he wants to leave agricultural in, and so by leaving that in and putting "or," he's trying to achieve the ability to leave agricultural in, but also have the rural part of it.
Hold on, nope, sorry, just give me a minute. Can you just read that one to me? Yeah. Remove the strikeout of the word.
Point of information, please. I'm Ed Ramsey, 144 Hammond Hill Road. I would just ask if you would be able to clearly say voting started and maybe 5 seconds before it closes. Because there are a lot of people in the audience that doesn't necessarily have the opportunity to get their vote in prior to you say it's already over.
Yeah, I'll try and give like a 10-second warning.
Okay, I used the wrong side. I'm sorry. Just give me one more minute.
See, this is why we want to go back to the days of hand counts, voice votes, and stagecoaches.
I thought you'd be happy to go back being the Board of Selectmen.
That too.
So to remove the strikeout. The word agricultural. CU and add the all right, hold on, I'll tell them where to start. I am going to go.
No, before you start the vote, make sure that you explain
Okay.
what a yes and a no are on the screen.
I am, but once it. So when I put it on the screen, you can start voting once you see it on the screen, and I will then tell you that the timing has started. So it'll be the next screen you see. Is everyone all set? Okay, I will tell you in a minute. Okay, clarify the yes and no.
Okay, so clicking 1 is yes, clicking no is 2. A yes vote, again, will remove the strikeout of the word agricultural and add in the word or, so you'll have agricultural and rural. A no vote will leave us back to the original wording of the article.
Okay, we're ready? Oh, sorry. Sorry, I guess I'm not so good at this. All right, we'll get there. You're all so good, I have to make so many changes, so I'm not, all right, that was the one. Yep. That was the original, and that's the amendment we didn't get, and okay, go.
Okay, voting is now open, and I will give you a 10-second warning before voting closes. You're 10 seconds left to vote. Click 1 for yes, 2 for no. 3 seconds. Voting has closed. The motion to amend passes.
148 yes, 53 no.
148 yes to 53 no. So now we're working on the article with that adjustment. Did you want to make, no? No. Okay.
You good, Karen?
Okay, so right now, we are working on Article 17 as amended, which we just discussed. Removing the strikeout, adding in the word or. Is there any discussion on Article 17, now that it's been amended?
Motion to move the question.
Well, no one's taking the microphone for comments or questions, so we will move to vote.
David, can I have my comment? It's okay. Kristen Costigian, 88 Carroll Hill Road. I'm just speaking as myself. I wanted to thank the planning board for going through this process with the Central Mass Planning Association. I'm sure it was lengthy, and I'm sure you held at least 2 hearings on this entire bylaw change or update, right? More than that, yeah. So I just wanted to say thank you because I think that it was overdue, and I really appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you. So this needs a two.
We'll show Article 17 as written in the book. Nothing to type it all up. That's all right.
That's fine, but would you clarify that for everyone here? So Karen's going to explain to you what's going to see on the screen, though we are voting on the amended article. And while she gets ready to tell you, I'm just going to remind you that for this article to pass, it will require 2/3 vote.
So I need to put in a new slide because I did something wrong, unfortunately. I apologize. So I will put the slide that says Article 17, and you won't see it up on the screen, but it'll be as written in your book. So just give me one more minute on that.
Right, so basically, what you are going to be voting on is the article as written in the book with the changes that were just voted, that removed the strikeout of agricultural and added in the word or. Now we're taking a vote on the article as it was amended.
Okay. So same thing as before. Once I hit the screen, we'll be ready to vote. I'm just going to put Article 17. All right, so that's that.
Scroll through it again.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so I'm gonna go like this, and I gotta scroll back down.
So this will be Article 17 as amended.
Okay,
Okay.
polling has now started.
Ten seconds remaining to vote. 5, 157 So the article, as amended, passed 157 to 48. Article 18, I'll read that while Karen's getting set up.
I'm good.
Article 18, zoning bylaw amendment, amend section 3 of the zoning bylaw. To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw, section 3, use and intensity regulations, subsection 200-3.2, uses regulations, to insert the bolded italicized language and delete the strike-through language as follows, or take any action relative thereto or thereon, as described in your handbook, beginning below that on page 21 and continuing through the top of page 25. While you are looking through that, I will ask if there is a recommendation from the planning board.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 18 as written.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation from the planning board?
There's a recommendation from the planning board.
Thank you. So this will require, again, a 2/3 vote to pass Article 18. Okay. Are there any comments or questions on Article 18?
Mr. Moderator, Bill Borowski, 69 Haggerty Road. Based upon what we just did on Article 17, somebody, and I'm happy to do it, needs to, at least I would defer to Attorney Cosgrove, that we need to modify that first column that currently says R-60. That should now say A or R-60, I believe, based upon what we just did in Article 17. Or am I misinterpreting what we just did? So, Jim, long story short, in Article 17, we made the amended motion, and for obviously those at home or here, we changed R60, the cross-out in Article 17, to reference agricultural or residential 60. Currently, Article 18, the first column, only says R60. I believe we need an amendment now that would amend the use table to say A or R60.
So Mr. Borowski, while he's writing it, is making an amendment to Article 18 so that it will match up with the change that left agricultural in the previous Article 17. And now we have a second. So while thank you. We have a motion and a second to adjust Article 18 as follows. Moving to amend the motion to include A or R60 in the used table so that Article 18 will match the action that you just took on Article 17. Is there any discussion on the amendment that was seconded? Hearing none, we'll do a voice vote. Majority needed to pass the amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Is there now any discussion on the amended motion, amended Article 18?
Okay. I was just asking for clarification.
Can you please speak into the microphone so they can hear you?
I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself, but. Drew. Okay. All right, I'll try again. Section 3, residential uses 2. It's not clear from what I see in my, under major residential developments. It says N, and then it says special permit. Does that mean it could be approved with a special permit?
Yes, that is, just so everyone else can reference page 21, under 2 residential uses, letter F, over to BEP, N is crossed out, it's now SP. The proposal is for SP.
Okay, I just want to, I own a very large parcel on Route 20 where the water tower is. I'm a patient investor. I bought it in 1986. We had a couple false starts. One time it was going to be the shopping center with Hannaford's and Lowe's, a movie theater, a Kohl's, and it died on the vine when the meltdown happened in 2008 after 2.5 years through the permit process. But today, there's very few large parcels left. And my partner and I own approximately 600 acres still in Charlton. We've held on to this for a long time, and we get calls.
Yeah, Dan, you want to try this one?
All right, I'll try again.
It's still happening.
Shut it off and I'll yell, okay? Yeah, okay.
We may have to work
How's
through it
that?
as best we can. Hopefully, it's not the storm.
I think the static's gone away. All right, so if you look down on the chart here, okay, special permit, all right? And I know, the state and the state planners and the central mass planners, they want to see a lot of housing. But here's what happens. We have people from all over the country that call us because they hear Amazon's coming to town with 1,200 or 1,400 jobs. There's a couple other projects that are in permitting or have been permitting for more jobs. And you've got companies like Avalon and a lot of these big companies. They come in with a 40B, and I sell this land, and you got 400 units. you're looking at a new school, you're looking at a lot of things. The other thing is the possibility of having some income-generating property like the Amazon project coming in goes away because you've taken a prime piece of land. So I'm just thinking that, that should be rethought. And do you really want to take the few parcels that are left under the business enterprise park and squander them for housing? Okay, the water and sewer there, what makes it prime for housing, the access is there, but I didn't hold on to this parcel for 36 years, which is a half my lifetime ago, to make it housing. But if I hold it, if down the road we're not here and you get slammed with that, I think it's going to change the whole character of the town. So I just think that the parcels that are left, we don't need it. And the other thing is, we passed a bylaw, we passed a zoning amendment at one of the last town meetings to allow up to 110 feet. Do you really want to see 1,000 units of maybe partially public housing on a high-rise? I don't know if that would, if that fits that definition of the zoning. But I think, you might want to, the planning board might want to just rethink that one. And I'll leave it up to you if you want to make an amendment and strike the special permit for my property, even though I'm shooting myself in the foot maybe, or maybe my heirs. But like I said, I didn't own this for 36 years to do housing. Thank you.
We turned them off. Are there any other comments or discussions on Article 18?
Leonie Howard, 148 Gould Road. This is a big article. It looks like a number of things that are changed in it. Could somebody please explain the reasoning behind this article, how it came about, and what the changes will mean for us?
Can someone from the planning board please answer her question?
All right, thank you for the question. Just for some background, the planning board's been working on Article 16, 17, 18 the past 2.5 years with Central Mass Regional Planning, and the reason why the majority of it was to make some clarity for uses and stuff, and as well as give property owners, especially on the commercial properties along Route 20, more ability to do things rather than just having a hard no, and getting to Dan's piece on the special permit to give him more ability to do different things on his property. Yes, there are quite a few changes in this zoning chart, but a lot of them give the property owners more ability to do more things with their property, and it also provides oversight by the planning board with the changes that were made, so that the proper uses are made where we take into account of how the town is and how we want it to look going forward.
All right, John DeRose, 79 Freeman Road. I just have a question on page 23, communications usage, I think it's Article 6, Section F. I'm talking for basically the Bailey families who have the Charlton Airport. Is this grandfathered in, or is this going to be a no now?
So hopefully someone from the planning board can answer the question for you.
Yeah, there's ultralights currently flying out of there.
Whatever use is being used as today before this article will be grandfathered in.
Are there any further questions on Article 18?
And just to clarify what the different letters mean, when you look at the chart and you see N, Y, P, SP, N is no, obviously, Y, yes. P is uses permitted in the zone with the proper site plan approval from the planning board. SP is special permit and could be used in the zone under a special permit with the approval of the planning board if the planning board believes and approves the use and location is appropriate on the property in question. meaning the planning board can use their discretion to approve or disapprove the use that is proposed, that would be proposed in front of them.
So thank you for the clarification. So again, we're going to go back to this does require a 2/3 vote to pass. Once it goes live to vote, I'll let you know. I will also give you the 10-second warning before voting closes. We need 1 second.
So Beth Posner Waldron, I live at 147 Center Depot Road. So on page 22.
Is that microphone off?
Can you hear it?
Yeah, it's on.
It's not made for short people.
Brad, just talk into it for a second. See if,
It's not on.
go the other way.
Test 1, 2. That's better.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Brad.
So Beth Posner Waldron, I live at 147 Center Depot Road, and I have a question. Now I can't find it. So on page 22, it looks like they're taking out that category of J for, it's under section 4, recreational uses. They're crossing through J, other private, predominantly open recreational areas. But they also had the yeses turning into SPs in the first 3 columns. So is there a new heading or use name for that J? Or are they taking out J altogether?
Ross, 4J.
I believe that the current J, which is other private and predominantly open recreation uses, is renamed to a new J, public recreation facilities, just
Oh, okay.
underneath it.
I see it right below. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Hearing none and seeing,
This will be like the last one where it'll say Article 18 is amended, and the wording will be in your book, except for the amendment. So just give me 1 more minute.
1 second, and then we'll let you know when voting goes live, and we'll give you the heads up before it's going to end.
Okay, polling's open.
Okay, voting is now open. Again, click 1 for yes, click 2 for no. This does require a 2/3 vote to pass. Ten seconds remaining to vote. Two seconds. Voting is closed.
137 yes, 64 no.
So Article 18 passes with 2/3 by 137 yes, 64 noes. Article 19, zone change, parcel 34A-C-3- Trolley Crossing. To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning map, section 3.1.b, by making the following changes. Change the assessor's parcel 34A-C-3, consisting of 88,155 square feet, currently zoned Village, V, to community business, CB. The zoning change is shown on the attached map, or take any action relative thereto or thereon, and this article has been sponsored by the property owner. Is there a motion? I have a motion. Is there a second? I have a motion and a second on Article 19. I'm assuming that the motion is to approve. So the motion is to approve as written. Is that the second as well? So that is the second, to approve as written. Does the planning board support this motion?
The planning board supports this motion. At the March 23rd, 2022 meeting, the board held a public hearing and voted unanimously to support this article.
Thank you. Forgive us, usually when there is a citizen-sponsored article, they provide a motion. We did not have one. That said, are there any questions or comments on Article 19? Seeing none, this will require a two-thirds vote again in order to pass.
Voting's open.
Voting is open. Ten seconds left for voting.
Yes, 21 no.
Article 19 passes by 177 yes to 21 no. There's some happy people. Article 20, zone change, parcel 35-D-12-5, L. Stevens Road. To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning map, section 3.1.b, by making the following changes. Change the assessor's parcel 35-D-12 at 5 L. Stevens consisting of approximately 10 acres currently zoned agriculture, A, to village, V, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. This is another article sponsored by the property owner. Does someone have a motion to make on Article 20? If there is no motion, we're going to move on.
Oh, David Pete's coming.
Mr. Moderator, Pete Boria, 4 Elm Road. I move that Article 20 be accepted as printed.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second to accept Article 20 as printed. Is there a recommendation from the planning board?
The planning board supports this motion. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any comments or questions related to Article 20?
Are property owners who have these articles here notified that they are supposed to come up with a motion? Does anybody let them know that?
I'm told they usually are. If they want to get, during the process of having an article put on, that they are told that they do need to provide the motion. Seeing no other questions on Article 20, this also will require a two-thirds vote. Hang on one second, please.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Hold on. Why is there one in all those? It's so. There's like one vote in them. Oh, you can't redo it. No. Hold on. I can get rid of my numbers, which I have.
Oh, I yearn for the old days of holding up a piece of paper.
Okay. Hold on. Yeah, I can. I can clear that screen, yep. Tools, clear responses, current slide, okay. Let me show you my delete all the current slide, yes. Okay, I figured it out. All right. I don't know why it doesn't go there. I don't know, that's really weird, it's not. And I'll have to do it on the next one too. 19, 20, oops, hold on. 20?
Okay, we are at Article 20.
Polling's open.
Okay, please vote. Click 1 for yes, click 2 for no. There are 10 seconds left to vote. 5 seconds.
Yes, 49 no.
Article 20 passes by 143 yes to 49 no. Article 21, loan authorization for the purpose of acquiring property for use as a senior center. To see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money to purchase a parcel of real property, including the land located at 107 Dresser Hill Road, Charlton, Mass. 01507, and for the renovation of the building thereon for the use of a senior center, to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, and take any action relative thereto or thereon. And this is a citizen's petition, and I believe they have their motion.
Mr. Moderator, I'm Cindy Cooper, Berry Corner Road. I move that $3 million is appropriated for the acquisition of land located at 59A-A-34, 107 Dresser Hill Road in Charlton, and the renovation of the building thereon for the use of a senior center, including any expenses incidental or related thereto. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow $3 million under General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7(1), or any other enabling authority, and that the Board of Selectmen is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project.
Second for discussion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there a recommendation of the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee does not support this motion.
Is there a recommendation of the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen does not support this motion.
So are there any comments or discussion on Article 21?
Mr. Moderator, Cindy Cooper, Berry Corner Road. Tonight, we have a choice. Do we want to maintain the status quo where our senior citizens are crammed into limited space, where access means navigating a maze of ramps, hallways, and heavy doors, where there's a cap of 80 for attendance at any event, where some classes are bulging and the number in attendance is restricted, where parking is at a premium and sometimes blocked, and where only one activity can occur at one time? Or do we want to provide enough space for our growing senior population to meet, to socialize, to be physically active, to increase their educational experience, to attend entertaining programs, and to access resources? Yes, the number of seniors is increasing. In the last 10 years, those aged 60 and older has grown from 2,184 to 3,489. That's an increase of over 59%, and it is expected to continue to grow due to a longer life expectancy. An architect recommended over 10,000 square feet for the seniors about 24 years ago. Since there's been such an increase in the senior population during the last 10 years, even more space than that is now needed. Tonight, we have the unique opportunity to purchase a building that offers 3 times the current space, plus renovations to meet municipal building standards, with the bonus of another building in about 4 acres, all for about $3 million. Compare that to the $11 million neighboring Sturbridge voters approved to upgrade their senior center, and you will see the financial value of this project. Moving out of the current senior center also provides space and offices for other crowded town departments to use. Approval tonight doesn't mean the purchase will take place tomorrow. It means the selectmen will be authorized to do their due diligence, and only then to enter into agreements and to hire contractors. Tonight is the first step in the process to acquire 2 buildings
at 107 Dresser Hill Road. The middle showroom of approximately 12,000 square feet and the smaller annex of about 3,000 square feet. Please vote yes.
Good evening, sir. Ken Kozak, 79 Little Market Road. My concern, and I'm part of the over 60 generation, my concern is any finances that are going to be involved with this, is it going to take away from any of the public safety, any police, any fire? And why I'm greatly concerned, we are increasing with the Amazon, so there's going to be a great amount of traffic, great amount of people. If anything, we're going to need to increase the police and fire for response, not decrease. Is the finance going to take away from their budget? That's my concern.
There's,
Do you want to take it, or?
I was like, do you want it or do you want me to want it?
So just in general, essentially this is approximately $700,000 out of the tax levy that would go from other operational needs that would fund the debt service for this.
which, and if you mind.
You have to talk closer to the microphone.
And to clarify, so that $700,000 annual payment would have to come from the operational budget. There's not an override on the table, so that would be cuts in other services.
So there is definitely a possibility that the police and fire could be cut.
We can't print money. We're not the federal government. It has to come
That's
from
just my
somewhere.
concern.
Yeah.
So yes or no, please.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It would be cuts.
With the increase of our over 60 generation, they will be affected by the decrease in police and fire, the services.
Yeah,
That's a possibility then.
That's a possibility, of course.
All right,
Of course.
thank you.
Of course.
Mr. Moderator, so just briefly, we need to take the emotions out of this and look at this objectively. And these questions are only somewhat rhetorical for every single person sitting in this audience. What do we know right now? We know that we're looking to buy 2 buildings and approximately 4 acres for $3 million. Okay, statement of fact, I think we can all agree on that. Well, let me ask these questions. What conditions are the building in? Do we know how their roof is? How's their electrical? How's the water? How's the septic? Is there any contamination? I could go on and on and on. What is the plan to actually pay for these things? Quite honestly, being on the Board of Selectmen, we have suggestions, but we haven't even talked about a plan yet. We don't know what is going to be cut. We don't know really what the future operating budget of the senior center is going to be. And I'm not trying to be trite, but when I go out to dinner, I don't order a $40 appetizer, or like entree, having way less information than this. And we have all these open questions, and we're being asked to take the first step to fund a $3 million purchase. There are too many variables involved right now that are simple unknowns for us to move forward with this. This can't be about we should take better care of our seniors. I think we all agree on that. But it's about the plan. And is this the best plan for us to move forward with? My argument is no. We should have feasibility studies. We should have real tech diagrams. We should be hiring engineers like we've discussed, using some ARPA money to come up with a much better plan with actual data and actual information. If we can't answer all these questions tonight, I can't see how we can possibly say that we're going to go forward and say, yes, Board of Selectmen, now start talking about a $3 million expenditure. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, full disclosure. I was selected by the LeBlanc Pickle family to market the property. So my first reaction was, what's the highest and best use? So the last speaker was disingenuous when he said, we're buying it for $3 million. No. The selectmen failed to meet with us, failed to look at the building and sit down and have a discussion. One of the things that the family agreed to do was to give them a 10-year option to purchase a property where they could rent it. And in this fiscal year, we were probably talking about maybe $40,000 or $50,000 in rent. So we're talking about, what, 1/4% of the budget for this year? So we never got a chance to discuss that. They never looked at the building, okay? For those who ran out of handouts today, but Sturbridge is spending $11.5 million to renovate their senior center, okay, to get it up to about 12,000 square feet. So here we have a building, 12,000 square feet. We have an annex of 3,000 square feet, okay? The price is $2.2 million. I went out and I solicited to a friend of mine who's disgusted with the way we've tried to get things built in Charlton. He says, I will give a $100,000 matching grant. Anonymously, I will put it in escrow. No one wanted to hear about that. I put my money where my mouth is. I says, okay, if it's a matching grant, my wife and I will put up $20,000, okay? So now we're getting this thing down close to $2 million, all right? Now, you know, the building's in good shape. I brought an architect in who works in the public sector. I brought a contractor in, the same guy who built Ted's, the same company that built Ted's, built the bank, did the addition for the fire station in Dudley, built a police station, a fire station in Barry and North Brookfield. And you know what they both said? This is a no-brainer. So if we're going to take care of our seniors in the next 10 years, this is a once-in-a-chance opportunity. So if the rent was $10,000 a month, okay, and half of it is going into a credit at the end of the day, we're talking over 10 years, okay? So no one wanted to talk about the soft dollars. It's, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. Now my question is, okay, they started the Amazon project, okay? The building permit, from what I understand, is approximately $1 million, which will go to free cash if I'm not mistaken, all right? So we have money coming out of there. There's another large facility that's probably going to be announced in the next 2 weeks. There's an approval for up to 1,400,000 square feet on the Charlton line right next to the strip, across from the Techman building. That's going to bring in money. Now, we're talking about, public safety. I know everybody's, what about our public safety? Well, what about the Amazon money where there was money put in there for public safety? And on the TIF, what about the TIF money, okay? You know, so what I'm saying is, no one's saying you have to buy it today. No one's saying it's going to be this. I think we owe it to the seniors to sit down, and if you don't negotiate the right deal and you can't prove you're going to be able to pay for it, you walk away. But this is step one. The other thing is we have the Amended building there across from the cemetery. You could sell that for $400,000 or $500,000. So what I'm saying, if the next 10 years, the budget is going to increase to probably $400 million over 10 years. If we're working on, what, a $34 million budget today? Look at this over 10 years, and we're talking pennies, a very, very small percentage. So like I'm saying, I think the selectmen have been disingenuous in not meeting and looking at all the options they can do and see how they can do it. And you know, here's another example. People have told me, I brokered the deal.
I am going to limit you and everyone else who wants to speak to 3 minutes
okay?
because there are a lot of people waiting.
Give me 2 minutes.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Okay. I brokered the deal for the Howlett Lumber building, okay? Company bought it for 2.1 and change. They sold part of it off for $1.1 million. They're in for $1 million. They put $2.4 million in it, okay? I offered that to the town. No one wanted to talk about that for a fire station. Today, you'd have a public safety complex for less than $10 million, and you'd be taking care of the public safety need. So once again, I think you should open your minds and listen to people. I'll get the people in the room that are the architects and the engineers, a team that I would do, and save you some money going forward and wisely invest the town's money. I rest my case.
So we will give everyone else who wants to speak as well a 3-minute limit. Who was?
I was next, I think. Thank
Ms.
you.
Walker.
Kathleen Walker, 96D Baker Pond Road. I think that Bill's comment about taking the emotion out of it is something that's really dangerous to do. I don't think we should vote on anything here and take our hearts out of it or our emotions out of it. And certainly we shouldn't just go from an emotional point of view. But we need to balance both of them. I've been in Charlton for almost 30 years. When I came here, I wasn't a senior, but I am a senior now, and I'll be 80 next year. And I love this town. I've served on all kinds of committees, and I was on the Board of Selectmen for 12 years, on the Board of Health. I have given everything that I wanted to this town, not because I had to, but because I love the town. That's my heart. That's your heart. It's not just a mental, non-emotional thing. We have to look at everything here and be balanced. So I would encourage you to support the senior that you will become. All of you who are not yet there yet, you will, by the grace of God, become a senior and have a place to go and have a place to be with other people that are like you and enjoy the life that you have left after working so hard your whole lives. Give yourself that opportunity, give your parents that opportunity, give all of us that opportunity. Thank you.
Again, please state your name and address.
Thank you. My name is Michael Zareski, and I'm here for the Senior Center, in support of the Senior Center. And I talked to you before, the panel here, and I says that we need this Senior Center. It's not, in 2004, we started looking for a Senior Center. We hadn't got a chance any time till now. This is the best situation that we've ever had as far as the money. Now, if you say we can't do it now. What are you gonna do? You're gonna buy us a building of, say, like $10,000? No. Be honest about it. You can't do it. So here's an opportunity. And this is for the people, the seniors, that are climbing up the ramp. I was watching a girl climbing up the ramp today and struggling just to go to the bathroom because it's upstairs, it's not downstairs. It's pathetic that you can turn your heads on this. These people come in because they don't want to be in a house alone with 4 walls. They want to come to a senior center and meet people and everything else. And that's worth more than $3,000 or $4,000. I rest my case.
Hi, my name's Timothy Smith. I'm 43 Casey Road, Charlton. One question that I have is how many seniors actually use the senior center on a daily basis that are from town residents, not from out of town or whatever else, but from the town of Charlton?
Is there
Also,
someone from the
I
senior
have-
center who could answer that? Go ahead.
Okay,
continue.
and I have one other comment to make. I think being a resident in this town for 25 years, I'm 55 years old. I'll be using the senior center, somewhere down the road. But right now, I think it's more important that we focus on getting a public safety building, which would then free up the police department to be used for a senior center right across the street from Masonic Home, right near Main Street, and everything else in closer proximity. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone from the council who could answer the question? Okay. Ah,
It takes me a while.
the finger came
I
up.
have to get a knee replacement next week. And I'm gonna dare to take off my mask, so hopefully.
Thank you. So we'll have the answer to the question on how many Charlton residents regularly use the senior center.
Yeah,
But the-
yeah,
we're
the
gonna stick
deal
to the
is there
question
will.
is- but the question was how
for
many
right now,
currently
well, the
use.
last time I had lunch there, which was a few days ago, we had 28 people. We had a fellow from Fallon Health, and people came to ask questions about that. We had a balance class that happened in the back room that has that freezer. I'm always encouraging the selectmen to have their meeting, at least one, down there the way we do. The freezer is so loud, you know, it's hard to hear anything. But I have to say, I'm really discouraged. I'm not sure if anyone went to see. I know you probably shopped it at the Charlton Furniture, as I did. But to look at it with these eyes now and see what a bonus this would be to the town, I just wonder. I heard no's. You're all in agreement of that. Did anyone go to look at the present Charlton scene? No. I think that's too bad. I really do. And like Mike said, Mike is the heart of our senior center. He's there every day promoting it. This is an opportunity. You know, I feel like it's going to fail.
Thank you.
And
30
I'm sad
seconds.
about that. I've lived here for 35 years. Everybody is getting older. And I don't know, it's just, it's a shame. I hope it will pass. And I think it's an opportunity, like I said. So I'll just leave it up to you.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Yep, Steve Corona, 17 Old Worcester Road. This is an emotional conversation, and the vote isn't going to be pro or anti-senior. It's how do we fund it? Right now, we have one mechanism to fund it, and that's going to be budget cuts from other departments. I know Mr. Prouty, and I take a little, I'm taken back by your saying selectmen are disingenuous for not going up and taking a look at the property. That's not fair. We had no way to fund it. This was kind of tossed at us 3 weeks ago, a month and a half ago, while we were trying to close the warrant.
You completely can.
Secondly, if,
I wanna
let me
debate.
No,
finish
please
here.
don't interrupt.
Secondly, we heard your rent-to-own option, and the town hall did its own little background check on that. You know, it's not like buying a plasma TV at a rent-a-center, right? Your rent-to-own option basically left the town at a 50% interest rate, and then we buy the building at the end. The town hall did that analysis. So this isn't an anti-senior vote. Of course we're all going to be there, and of course we need to do something.
Please
But we
talk into the
can't.
microphone.
But we can't cut staff, police or fire or highway, right now to do it. It's just not a mechanism. A year from now, maybe. That's all I got to say.
Okay, excuse me, to debate you. This is why we gave you the option to buy. For the first fiscal year, it was going to cost less than $60,000, okay? $30,000 was coming off the price, all right? Now, for a town that spent $1,850,000 on plans and engineering and architects to get a 900-page specification guide and never build a center because it was doomed to begin with. When I read the cost of the public safety complex, we bought a piece of land for $180,000. In that town meeting a couple of years ago, I said, when we were talking a $20,000 public safety complex, I said, if I was going to build myself a $2 million house in Charlton, I wouldn't go out and look for an $18,000 lot. So the town bought it, they went after that, and the site work estimate was $4.9 million, okay? Okay, I'm trying to tell you how you're going to get from here to there. You know you need a senior center sometime in the next 10 years. You know you need a public safety complex. The thing to do is you can't go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars with people that just say, you need this, you need this, you need this. You have to start with we could put people together from town before we go to say, look, this is what we can afford, this is what we can do it, and then you gotta go look for a different site where you're not gonna spend the first $5 million putting a site. One gentleman said, oh, we could use the police station.
You have about 1 minute remaining.
Okay, you're gonna put an elevator in there, you're gonna renovate it, you're gonna put safety ramps and all this stuff, and you're gonna blow $3 million or more. So all I'm saying, hey, you have an opportunity here, and all we can do, we can sit down, we can put the numbers together and do the due diligence. If you don't like the due diligence, you walk then. But if you walk now, that property is gonna be sold, and then you're gonna be back spending hundreds of thousands of dollars planning something, because that's the way you have to build buildings in Massachusetts. So all I'm saying is, if you're serious about a public safety complex, right now I'm involved with a $12 million
20 seconds.
addition at Goya Foods. I've done all kinds of building. I will bring people in and show you how to save money and get a public safety complex for probably $15 million that people would vote for. Not 20, not 30, and are you just going to keep wishing and wishing and wishing?
So thank you.
And never get
I'm going to
anything done?
institute now.
All right, I rest my case
No,
again.
thank you, but that's it. So going forward, in order to prevent people from taking the floor just to argue against everyone else's opinion when everyone here has the right to speak and be heard, if you come down again and again just to debate every person who speaks opposite you, you will be given 20 seconds. So that everyone who wants to speak can speak.
No, I think I'm good.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address.
Karen Riopel, 128 Sunset Drive. I just have a couple of questions, maybe just one. For the seniors that are using or that are proposing this, have they looked at any other properties, or was this just become available and we jumped on it?
Someone from Council on Aging or someone who could answer that for them?
Do you want me to give you the mic? Or?
Thanks. My name is Jim Howard. I live at 13 Main Street here in Charlton. Town resident for 47 or 8 years. And I'm also a member of the Council on Aging, past chairman. But when this thing was presented to us as a council, I just had the feeling that it was kind of being forced on us. And originally, I voted with the council to present it.
So I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm just trying to get, I'll let you have your time to speak if you want, but I'm just trying to use her time to get her, answer her question if there were other buildings looked
To
at.
answer her question, I took it upon myself to go look at a couple of properties. And both of them were steel buildings. One is next to the Doggy Hotel down on Route 20. And I told the council, and I told the selectmen this. The guy was very nice. I think his name was Pequod. He paid $200,000 for the lot. He paid $1 million for the building. It's a beautiful building. And I also go to the dump every Saturday morning, and I take 56 to get over towards Leicester. And there's another steel building there. And I at the last meeting, I hadn't got in touch with the guy, but he did call me, and he paid $1.5 million for that building. The first building was 5,000 square feet. You know.
So I'm going to assume the answer to the question is yes.
Okay. This other guy talked for how long? Let me finish.
Yes, and I've actually given, I appreciate that, but I've actually given you a minute of her time and I'm happy to give you a full 3 minutes.
Nope, stay right there.
So the answer to the question was apparently yes, they did look
Yes,
at
they
a
did.
few other
Yep.
buildings.
So I'm good for now, thank you.
Thank you. Now, if you'd like to speak, I'm happy to give you 3 full minutes to talk.
You want to go first? Go right ahead.
At our last council meeting, I presented to the council what we should be doing. I mean, we're all living kind of tight now. What we should do is maybe look for a lot of land. A land that's on the present water and sewer, which makes sense to me. And purchase the lawn, purchase the property. You know, you guys are talking 10 years in a distance, you know. We could probably have this all done a lot cheaper. I don't know, it's up to you guys. If you want to waste this kind of money, go ahead.
Please state your name and address, and you will also be given 3 minutes to speak.
I don't know how I can follow that up. I don't know. I should go sit down. My name is Jamie Terry. I live at 1 Wakefield Drive. I wasn't going to say this, but now that he brought that up, I'm going to say I actually don't think it will be cheaper and more fiscally responsible for us to buy land and build a building. I think we've witnessed that through the public safety process of how much money it costs to put a building up these days. So I disagree with that statement. Additionally, though, I would like to know, is this option on the table only for right now? Is there a time limit on it? Can this be evaluated over the course of the next couple of months and come back to fall town meeting with better information or more full information? Because I think that this may not be something that we should not look at, and I don't like that this has become public safety versus senior center, because there's needs in this town that are both.
Well, no, well, then. Well, an option's been presented on the table. Any property acquisitions are still subject to procurement law, which would still need to be followed even with a vote. So it would still need to be bid, and an offer would have to be put on the table, which is not currently on the table.
Sure, but that could happen for fall town meeting. There's no reason, if the owner of the property has not moved on that property in any other manner, this board or all of the committees in town could continue to evaluate this and see if there is viability here.
So
is
Mr. Moderator?
forgive me, but is the question, just for clarification for everyone here, is your question, if this does not pass this evening,
Or it's passed over.
would the town be able to still act on this at the fall town meeting? Is that what you're asking?
If it seems like a better agreeable approach after further consideration, could it come back before town meeting in the fall?
It could, as long as it is available.
Did you have?
As long as the property is available.
I just think that I don't think that we should not
40
consider this,
seconds.
but it seems that there are certainly hesitation on it. I know that we have a lot of different ways to spend our money. My other question, I'm sorry, my last question, and then I'll leave you, is what is the $700,000 that you said that is going to continuously be the money that we need to come up with?
That would be inclusive of the debt service needed to pay off the loan for the loan authorization. For property acquisition, it's 5 years it needs to be paid off.
And does it have to come at the cost
10
of?
seconds.
Does it have to come at the cost of losing other staff in town?
It needs to
Why?
fall under the levy limit, so the budget at the end of the year, inclusive of the allowed debt service, needs to include that. The first year of debt service would be 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, you'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Hi, Jim Nee, 34 Center Depot Road again. Just a point of clarification from the administrators of the town, maybe Board of Selectmen. As I read this, it refers to the loan authorization. If this was voted in the affirmative tonight and the town begins its due diligence process based on that affirmative vote, And during that due diligence process, it is found that this is not the right facility, either because of the terms of the deal, conditions of the building, ancillary costs, whatever that might be. Is there a version of this vote tonight where we vote in the affirmative, due diligence is done, but the town does not incur additional costs because it becomes clear that this is not the appropriate property? Or does an affirmative vote force the spending of $3 million?
Mr. Moderator? Oh, Andrew.
Mr.
you wanna take
Borowski?
this? So, Jim, it's a good question, and I invite Andrew to correct me. Long story short, if this were to pass this evening, it would basically put the ball in the hands of the Board of Selectmen to negotiate terms, which may include things like engineering studies, appraisals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all down through. So some money could potentially be spent so that we could decide. To Jamie's point from before, that may in fact mean coming back to fall town meeting to potentially ask for more money, or just to give an update saying, hey, look, here's where we're at. So one option is to pass it tonight and then trust us. And I think I speak for the board when I can say, I promise you that if the vote is affirmative, we're going to do our best to make it work and fulfill the will of town meeting. But if it doesn't work, we're going to be honest with you about it. So that's kind of where, so that's really what this vote is. And as many have mentioned, this would be step one to say, all right, Board of Selectmen, go negotiate terms, see what you can come up with. And if you don't like them, yeah, you can absolutely walk away. Andrew, does that make sense? Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Anya Grandalski, 15 Priscilla Lane. I would just ask that we could refer to the Finance Committee and ask that they explain why they don't support the motion. They're the people in this town that we trust to talk about financial decisions. This is surrounding a financial decision, and they haven't spoken yet.
Would anyone from the Finance Committee care to answer the young woman's question why the Finance Committee decided to oppose the article?
Yes, Henry Camarsi, 10 E. Bayless Road, and I chair the Finance Committee. We took a look at this motion. As this motion is written, we did not support it. And the biggest reason was, as has been tried to explain here, yes, you can borrow the money. The money doesn't come out of the tax revenue. We go out, we find $3 million, but we pay it back with tax revenue. Now, you know that we pass two budgets every year. We pass our operating budget, which we did today, which pays for everyday expenses. That money comes from tax revenues. If we take on this burden of $3 million, pay back over the next 5 years, 10 years, there's all different options. But let's just take the 5 years, because that's the number that seems to be floating around. We would have to take from somewhere in the operating budget, if it were this year, for instance, $700,000. We don't have $700,000. Now, I've heard, well, you've got Amazon coming, you get all these guys. All right, one of our tenets is we don't spend money we don't have. Okay? We have certain goals on the Finance Committee, okay? One of our goals is getting our stabilization fund up to 10% of our annual budget, all right? What did we say, 2.8, I think, or 2.7? 2.5, right.
Mr. Kamasi, I'm just going to ask you to be very surgical on the answer as to why you opposed it.
Right. So we know that we've got things coming up, okay? So we do our operating budget now, we do our capital budget in October. I can tell you right now, the town could use about $4 million worth of capital expenses come October. Guess what? We know we're not going to have $4 million. So we look at the monies coming in, especially the tax revenues. We're only going to spend tax revenues that we have. This would throw us off by almost 700,000, maybe 9, depending on where this number comes in. Somebody asked earlier, what effect would this have, okay? Well, they run the numbers, right? We would lose firemen. We would lose police officers. We would lose aides in the library. This would really put a dent in our daily operations. That's what we look at. What do we need to run the town on a day-to-day basis? We don't use one-time money. We don't use stabilization fund money, okay? And we don't use fees that may come in, like I said, one time. What do we raise? We know what we raise in our taxation. That's what we spend. We don't see how this fits into our budget. We did not support this motion as written. My suggestion, you want to do this? Do a Prop 2.5 override for $3 million. That'll buy the building, that'll renovate it, that'll run it for the next few years. And when you don't need all that excess money, there's other things this town could use.
Thank you, Mr. Kamasi.
Mr. Moderator, Pete Boria, 4 Elm Road. If I could just ask Mr. Prouty, as a representative of the seller of the property, if there would be a way for a town meeting to get this property under agreement and appropriate a small amount of money to allow the Board of Selectmen to do due diligence over the next 6 months to get us to fall town meeting and revisit this with more information.
I think if I spoke for the LeBlanc and the Pickle family, right? I think they would agree to give a 6-month free option, okay? That would give 6 months for you to do your due diligence, okay? We would not, maybe we would take a backup buyer if you didn't do it, but you'd have a free option. Now, when I do industrial or commercial projects, I get paid option money because they take control of my asset. But I'm thinking speaking for them, we could enter into a 6-year option period that would get you into November, and then you'd know if the money was coming in, okay?
Yeah, but, point of order, Mr. Moderator. Dan,
No,
you said 6 years. I think you meant 6
No,
months, right?
no, a 6-month option, okay? So what I mean, that'll get you past October. You'll know where you stand. You know if this other money's coming in. You know if Rusty's got his money for his stabilization fund, and we can go from there. And that's why I proposed the lease option is the type of thing. But you're paying down the road. The big thing is, you got to remember that lease option froze the price. And I know the gentleman that talked about the one on Route 56. That's my industrial park. That building cost $1.6 million, but it was half the size of what we're talking here. And that was on about 1.5 acres. You're talking 4 acres. And anybody that's building today, they know what it costs to permit. They know what the cost of stormwater management and a parking lot cost. But I think that would be a fair way. All I'm doing is asking you to come look at the building. I can help you get the people that will do the pricing. I know the town always
So I'm
has to.
going to notify you, got 20 seconds left.
Just let me
but
tell you how you're going to get there.
I appreciate
okay?
it, but you didn't, you've gone way beyond answering the question.
Okay, I said I'm speaking for the family. I'm sure they would do the 6-month option.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Scott Neary, 12 Yeoman Road in Charlton. I'm going to pick this up. I heard the first speaker say we have a choice tonight about whether we take care of the seniors or not. I'm proud to say I don't know anybody in my life that would not want to do that. There's plenty of things we want to do. In our day-to-day lives, in the last year or so, we've made hard choices because of the cost of living increases, everything we're seeing. We all have priorities that we have to put first. And I think the Finance Committee said it best, we don't spend money we don't have. We're sitting, the same speaker mentioned Sturbridge paid $11 million for their senior center. You want to use that analogy, every surrounding town has a beautiful fire department and police station. Our police station is undersized, our fire department is an embarrassment for great people that work for that. It's an embarrassment. To spend money before those two things are taken care of is a joke to me. And the priorities are completely upside down. And I don't want to make it public safety versus senior center, but that's what it is. But that's what it is. Thank you.
I believe you were next. Okay. You have 3 minutes. Please give your name and address.
Good evening. Mike Lally, 9060 Baker Pond Road, Charlton. I have spent 20 years on the Economic Development Commission in this town, and I've watched opportunities come and go, and I see here an opportunity that Dan Prouty, I know he's been up tonight a number of times, but his suggestion of taking the 6 months, doing the critical analysis to find out what you have there, and if you can get a hold on that property, it should be done, because the seniors, and I'm one of them now, I'm only 84, what the hell, you know, but that property, the line of sight to that property is conducive for senior citizens getting in and out. It's a nice property, and if the buildings prove to be adequate and don't need a lot of renovation, I think we would have to go a long way to better that option. Thank you all.
Thank you. You would just state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Jean Costello, 34 Main Street. With all due respect, with all the emotion that's in the room, I'd like to move the question.
There's been a motion to move the question. That does require a second. We have a motion and a second to move the question. What that does, if it passes, is ceases all further discussion on Article 21. Okay, so the motion to move the question is not debatable and requires 2/3 vote to pass. We're setting it up.
And for clarification, this is to move the question, this vote. So.
So the town clerk is creating a new slide. A motion was made to move the question, which was seconded. It's not a debatable opportunity. This is now going to be requiring 2/3 vote to pass. Otherwise, it fails. If it passes, it ends all further discussion on Article 21.
I'll tell you when you're ready.
Right. And then there would be a second vote on the actual motion.
Correct. This is simply a vote whether or not discussion will be cut off.
Okay, polling's open.
Okay, polling is open. A click of number 1 on your clicker is a vote yes to end discussion so that we can move to vote. A click 2 is no, which would allow debate or discussion to continue on Article 21. There are 10 seconds remaining to place your vote. Clicking 1 for yes, 2 for no.
Yes, 156, no, 31. Yep,
So the motion to move passes by 156
to 31.
to 31. So that ends any discussion on Article 21. We will now move to vote on Article 21. Article 21 also will require a 2/3 vote in order to pass. Bear with us, please, for one moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure if my next slide's the, yeah. Yeah, it is the previous one, okay. I'm just gonna have to scroll down. Yep. Yep, on the right, because is that back up on the screen? It's this one here, this is the one, we need the loan authorization.
Just tell me when you're ready, and I'll go to that screen.
Okay, so we're now going to vote on Article 21 again. This was, and I'm going to do both sides, the article and the motion, real quick. Article 21, loan authorization for the purchase of acquiring property for use as a senior center, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money to purchase a parcel of real property, including the land located at 107 Dresser Hill Road, Charlton, Mass. 01507, and for the renovation of the building thereon for the use of a senior center, to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, or take any action relative thereto or thereon. The motion was that $3 million is appropriated for the acquisition of land located at 107 Dresser Hill Road, Charlton, Mass. 01507, and the renovation of the building thereon for the use of a senior center, including any expenses incidental or related thereto, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow $3 million under General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 7, parentheses 1, or any other enabling authority, and that the Board of Selectmen is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out on this project. The Finance Committee opposed the motion. The Board of Selectmen opposed the motion. This was a citizen's petition that requires 2/3 vote to pass. Once this goes live on the screen, voting will be open.
I'll tell you when you're ready.
Point of order, please.
Oh.
The person who read the motion originally had some different verbiage than what was printed here. Because as I was reading along, I heard something completely different before she came to the address located at 107 Dresser Hill.
Ms. Cooper, do you have a copy of the motion you originally read?
Dave, I have it. It was just the parcel ID, so it doesn't change the motion. It was just the parcel ID for 107 Dresser Hill.
But that was put in the motion that she presented, different than the motion that was just read to us. And I think it needs to be the exact motion if we're going to be in a legal standing on a
So voted
vote.
that $3 million is appropriated for the acquisition of land located at 59A-A-34, 107 Dresser Hill Road, Charlton, Mass. 01507, and the renovation of the building thereon for the use of a senior center, including any expenses incidental or related thereto, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow $3 million under General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 7(1), parentheses 1, or any other enabling authority, and that the Board of Selectmen is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project.
Mr. Moderator, is it
Mr.
possible to
Borowski.
ask a quick procedural question to Town Council? No, actually, I can say it here. So long story short, if this fails, and I'm not saying it will, is there anything that negates the Board of Selectmen from potentially entering into that 6-month agreement regardless? Meaning, do we need town meeting approval to try to enter into a 6-month discussion phase to basically freeze?
There's nothing that prevents the selectmen from looking into it.
Okay.
In order to do anything about it, they would need to come back to town meeting.
Absolutely. So I believe the answer, and for those who may not have heard, that, again, I'm not leading the witness on this one. If it passes, we're going to do what you all say. If it's no, there's still an opportunity if a majority of the board would like to have a discussion with Mr. Prouty and the owners around that 6-month possible look into. I'm just throwing it out there.
So thank you for the point of order clarification. We are going to move on to vote on Article 21. Voting,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I'll tell you when it's time to vote. We good?
Yep. Voting
Oh, no.
is almost there.
Yeah.
We were there. We're there and we're
Well,
not.
it's two different types of screens, so we'll get there.
While we're waiting, we'll talk about the days of pink tickets we used to hold up and count by hand. It was so much simpler and faster.
And all the fights and arguments that caused
Okay, polling is now open.
Voting is open. I will let you know as the clock ticks down.
Okay.
15 seconds left to vote.
You're going to need a motion to adjourn, too.
5 seconds.
You're going to need a motion to adjourn. Okay.
Polling has now closed. One moment, please. There were 160 votes yes and 60 votes yes. 125 votes no. Article 21 failed. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Moderator, thank you for your service this evening, and I make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. Voice vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you all for playing. We are now adjourned.